email with all of you guys a lot, and I never know faces with it. Some of you I do.
Well, Andrew and I started emailing last year when he was working on the fashion show and Gustavo was out on leave and I was helping book space in the media building and Andrew was using the photography studio.
Yes, we still make use of that space quite
I'm
a
so
lot.
glad. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
We
Yeah.
uh we're planning out the semester. We had one of our admin meetings this week. I just sent Gustavo like 5 dates. So planning for the
Great.
semester.
That's great.
There's Gustavo. So we have two Gustavos now.
You're gonna have one in a second. Boop. Okay.
All right. We'll wait just another minute.
I was I was at a meeting at where was I don't know where I was. I was at a meeting somewhere and yesterday and um the meeting was going to be in a room. It was about 1 minute after and I knocked on the door, to get into the room and they were like, it's only 1 minute after, we're still busy and having a meeting in there. We'll be done in about another 5 to 10 minutes. And that's the life I used to know before coming to Virginia Tech. This 300 stuff is crazy stuff. Braden, I feel like I just saw you.
And it's been forever.
Yeah.
I couldn't get enough of you.
You're the only human that's ever thought that.
I was just sitting here thinking, Braden, you can have it. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome everybody, and as you get ready to present your work, I'll let you introduce yourself and if you have other team members on here. But first of all, I want to welcome Roger Wood to our Zoom. We thank you so much for attending and seeing what your generous contribution supports in these students. And I don't know if you have something you want to say to them or want to say to the group after, however you want to handle it is fine with me.
Yeah, I'll start real quick, and thank you for including me every year. This is my third year doing this. I very much enjoy kind of getting the update on the projects, how they're going. I found the last 2 years just fascinating, just the breadth and the diversity of the kind of work that students are doing. I had a chance actually to come down for the day for ICAT day last spring, and hope to do that again this year. But no, I'm just listening and look forward to hearing it again. Thank you again for having me.
Great, thank you. Okay, Ben, do you want to say something before we get started?
I'll just say the same thing I say every time, which is I am really excited. You think I'm kidding, but this is actually the highlight of my week and of my month. It's just these meetings, these Pecha Kuchas are what making working at ICAT so wonderful. So I'm just literally looking forward to hearing how you're doing with your projects.
Okay, so I put this up. You guys all were great sending me your PowerPoints ahead of time, and I have those all in one PowerPoint slide that I will drive. They're in no particular order, just kind of however I put them in the slideshow, and you have about a minute per slide. You can tell me when you're ready to go to the next slide, or if you need me to back up or whatever. And we'll hold kind of all questions to the very end. But if you have questions, for other presenters or other projects, then go ahead and just jot those down. And then some of our wonderful ICAT and Cine faculty are online with us, so they'll probably have some questions too. So we look forward to seeing what you've got. So I will share my screen first, and we will get started with the presentation. Let's see. Okay, can everybody see that? Yep.
Yep.
Okay, so welcome to the fiscal year 24-25 student seat grants. And This is your mid-Pecha Kucha. Of course, you guys will all have a final report that'll be due to us later, and we'll talk about all of that.
Melissa, sorry to interrupt, but we're looking at your edited version, not the full PowerPoint presentation. Can you put it in presentation mode?
If I knew how.
There's a little widget on the top of that screen.
F5 should do it.
Or
No?
if you press from beginning, perhaps.
Yeah, well,
There we go.
actually, yeah,
Does that work?
that's perfect.
Got it.
Y'all leave me in charge of PowerPoint, and it is not my thing. Okay, so the very first team that'll present is Museum in Exile.
Hello.
All right, so Michael, you're up.
Hi. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Sweet.
Yes.
Okay. My name is Michael Caviccio, and my project is the Museum in Exile, reconstructing the Mariupol Theater in Russian-occupied Ukraine. For this project, it's based around the Mariupol Theater, which is in Mariupol, which was one of the sites of it was one of the first battles in the Ukraine war, and during like the first stages of the war, it was serving as a humanitarian shelter, and it was bombed by the Russians, and 600 civilians were killed. So my goal for this project is to kind of highlight the atrocity that happened there and try to find a respectful architectural solution, and an architectural intervention that respects the history of the city, as well as acknowledges that war crime that happened on that site.
You ready
If
for
you
the
wanna
next
go
one?
ahead.
Yep.
Yeah. So to begin the project, I reached out to the Ski Iron Group, which is an architectural preservation group in Ukraine. They actually partner with the U.S. Embassy, and they were able to provide a significant amount of the existing drawings that the building was built during the Soviet Union. So I was able to get these drawings, and I was able to digitize them and create like a digital model. And I was able to also find some information on the blast. And the building has now been demolished to like kind of cover up the war crimes, but I was able to kind of create like a moment in time that I built my intervention off of. As you can kind of see on the bottom drawings, so that's my proposed design. I wanted to kind of include kind of motifs from Ukrainian culture in order to kind of celebrate the culture that the Russians are currently trying to destroy during the war. Go ahead and move to the next one. So for the next steps, the final project for this whole project, or the final product for this project, is going to be a 3D VR model. So as you can see, I have like a VR headset on that kind of the bottom right picture. Because since the building is currently under occupation, there's no real way to kind of return to the site. So I feel like the VR model kind of be a good way to still experience the building and then acknowledge what happened. The screenshots on the left are kind of progress images of the model. Where I'm at right now, I'm still going through and refining the design, and I'm going to apply textures, and eventually I'm going to move the project into Unreal Engine. And the whole project should be available to download like online. I think I'm going to try to put it on like the Meta store. I have it for free, of course, for people to kind of learn more. My goal is to have like an interactive museum, so people can learn a little bit more about Ukrainian history and culture, to kind of try to fight some of the disinformation that the Russian government puts out. That's my project so far. Thank you for the opportunity. It's been awesome.
Great. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have studio playdates. Brayden, you're up.
All right. Hey, everyone. Thanks for having me back. I really enjoyed working with you all on a Student Sea grant last year, and I'm really happy to be a part of this again this year. So our project is Studio Playdate. We're basically trying to lay the groundwork for a future sort of design sprint style workshop that's incorporated into the studio art and creative technologies curriculum here in SOVA. So as of right now, the students are required to take studio classes, but in many of these classes, the work that the students complete is individual. So they're all individual projects. And I am a big believer in collaborative work, but I haven't seen a whole lot of encouragement of collaborative work in the studio environment. So basically, what this project is trying to do is introduce collaborative play in the style of a design sprint workshop in the CID for art students here at Tech. I think I'm done with the first slide. Thanks. Okay, so I just kind of explained what it is, but basically, kind of the idea that I was inspired by, I spent some time in the Master of Landscape Architecture program here at Tech, and we did design charrettes, which is basically like all the students are picked up and put on a bus and taken to a community, and they all work together to come up with a design intervention for that community. This isn't quite that, but those types of projects where we were all kind of interacting with each other outside of the really structured environment of a classroom, those times really stand out to me when a lot of learning was happening. And I think what the aim of this project to do is to kind of create this sort of sense of community. Not create, it's already here, but to kind of like augment that sense of community and get people excited and potentially making artwork together. So I was also so inspired by like the design charrettes that we did, but I was also inspired by seeing some senior capstone projects from other disciplines. Like in a lot of engineering disciplines, senior capstone projects will have like 4 or 5 team members all working together on like an industry sponsored project. And of course, since we're in the arts, it's difficult to work with, for example, like Boeing or something like that on an engineering problem. But I think that we can kind of like come up with this way of incorporating this kind of rapid collaborative thinking into art and design education. That's good for that slide. So the work that's taken place, we've gotten 20 attendees, which we've also been in communication with Kevin and Claire, and we think that that's about the safe cap for what the makerspace can handle. A lot of the students have, or we've had them take their environmental health and safety trainings, and we've come up with an EHS plan as well for the weekend, which is, I think, pretty important because it's going to be 2 12-hour days back to back. So we want to make sure that people are being safe and careful and taking breaks while they're working. We've also procured all of the materials, and this is actually set to happen not this weekend, but next weekend. So all the materials are here. The students are registered. They've taken their safety trainings. We're pretty much ready to go. And then our prompt and challenge structure is going to kind of riff off of a few different things. One is like the game show Chopped, where contestants like get, just random sorts of ingredients and they have to make something out of them. And usually it's kind of like a mess, but that's kind of the point of it. And then also I always played like Mad Libs growing up, which is like, that word game where you're writing in like an adjective or an adverb to kind of like create a sort of story. So we want this to be a very improvisational where the students think on their feet and work together. And then lastly, we're going to have some like found materials that the students have to incorporate into their projects. And some of them are maybe easier or harder to incorporate into the sculptures that they'll be making. And so we're hoping that things get competitive and groups are trying to swap each other's materials like halfway through. So we're trying to kind of keep it interesting and throw them some wrenches. So that's our project. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Braden. All right, stories of migration. Aileen.
Hello. Thank you. So, Stories of Migration is going to be about 30-minute performance in the Cube in the Mossart Center. It's part of my dissertation where I'm looking at the potential of artistic work to disrupt anti-immigration discourses. And I am also looking at ways to transform spaces in the level of architecture from my readings with studies of Walter Benjamin, Black feminism, and Indigenous studies. How can we approach and transform an architectural space? Because this type of art that gets to that space, what I argue is that it affects people differently. So this is a collaboration, transdisciplinary performance. I am in the team as a director. I will also be playing the harp. Then we have Sumin Young, a professional dancer and scholar. Brennan Hale from MyCat is a composer, a music composer, and Nia Perez-Vera, she is working with scenic design. And so Nia and I are from the aspect departments, and Brennan's from MyCat. and Sumin is an independent scholar. And could you please move to the next one, Melissa?
Sure.
Thank you. So what we have done so far, we've been interviewing people about their stories of migration and recording the interviews with their consent. And these these stories will be used in the music composition that will be specialized in the cube. We also defined a structure for the piece with 3 movements: journey, changes, and imaginations. Brandon has started music composition. This is just one measure of a longer work that he composed. And we've had meetings to define our goals and check where we are. We have goals of transforming this space with projections and drawings, not too much intervention, but some that would create the theater space and that transformation, thinking about Black feminist approaches to architecture, where you transform a space also by coming together to share a story as well. And then passing through technology with the technological resources in the cube. We want to call people from the community to attend this performance so that people can see the work being produced at university in a new and aesthetic way. And Melissa, could you please go to the next one? Thank you. So it's hard to find people who want to go and be recorded because you have to go in person for the interview. The deadlines are tight because of how I have to graduate and couldn't find more assistantship to take longer. And we need to work with fees from the Mossart Center, but we're slowly understanding that. And also, we want to show that migrants have multiple reasons to migrate, different ideas of what it means to have a better life. Is it even better? What we need to question things. So we will never be able to show all the stories from everyone in the world, but we'll show a few very specific, unique stories. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Aylin.
Thank you.
Okay, we have haptic enhanced building performance. That is Mohammed.
Yeah. Hello. My name is Muhammad Ali, a PhD student in architecture and design research. I'm working along with Deepak Gupta, who is a master's student in computer science. So for our completed work, our project titled Haptic Enhancing Building Performance Simulation in Virtual Reality aims to transform complex building performance simulation data such as computational fluid dynamics and overall air quality into a simplified and interactive virtual reality experience using immersive technologies. For the second slide, the completed work. So we built upon a previous project funded by ICAT by integrating sensory-driven technologies using prior building performance simulation data. We generated a comprehensive climate analysis report for the years 2004, 2020s, 2050s, and 2080s. This was achieved by incorporating a machine learning tool to predict the future climate conditions. These climate data sets served as an input for the VR experience or for the VR application to ensure simulation accuracy, especially the CFD analysis and wind analysis. We used it to map wind velocity and speed, and wind velocity and the direction into a haptic vest, creating a different vibration intensities that simulate airflow based on the user's orientation for real-time sensory feedback. For our editorial integration, we utilize the 360-degree speakers inside the VR headset to provide realistic wind sound effects, accurately reflecting the speed and the direction. Moving to the third slide. So our challenges, like for the technical challenges, inconsistency between the haptic and audio feedback, achieving precise synchronization of real-time haptic and auditory response, especially on the dynamic simulations. For the hardware limitations, we haven't yet purchased the G1 haptic gloves. However, we plan to enhance the wind analysis by integrating 3 additional devices, the feet and sleeves and hands, for more comprehensive experience. So our next step is finalizing the haptic and auditory integration for the new devices. Second one, conducting in-person demos for volunteers to gather users' feedback to improve our VR application. And currently we are writing for research proposal to submit for IEEE World Haptic Conference in 2025. And that's all.
Great. Thank you, Mohammed.
Thank you.
Sound and Sight, Andrew, I think you actually have another title for yours now. I'll let you explain that.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so we are the Sound and Sight grant. Just here's kind of our title slide. We're Vermont Daru, short for VDR, and we put on fashion shows. Here go to the next slide, please, Melissa. So we applied for a grant this year because we wanted to do something a little bit different. We want to explore how we could do fashion shows differently. We want to converge fashion with audio and visual assets to create something that's more than just a traditional fashion show that pushes into an art exhibition. So how we're looking to do that with ICAT is in two different ways. We are doing an event in the sandbox, and we really want to push what the audience is seeing and what the audience is hearing. We want to juxtapose those two things and create confusion intentionally, but also create a way to influence the audience in a very immersive space. We have control of what they're seeing. We have control of what they're hearing. We're trying to also control what they're feeling and what the core of the show, like we want to guide them through what we want them to feel. With that, obviously, we also have the cyclorama, which is in the space right now, an incredibly huge immersive environment. There's a picture of it on the next slide, and that's going to allow us to also just have an audience be completely encapsulated. One of the things that we talk about a lot with our organization is VDR World. We've done previous shows both in the Ann and I Fallon Theater and also in Richmond and at other schools, and we always try to transport the audience to what we call VDR World, and we're really excited to work with the immersive elements in the sandbox to do that. So what we've done so far is we've met with the ICAC team and finalized kind of a production outline for what we want to do. We began testing and learning the sandbox a little bit last semester, and we've already set up lab hours moving forward so that we can start testing some of our visual assets and also start playing with exactly how we want to have sound work with our performers. And then we began asset creation for our visual assets. Go to the next slide, please, Melissa. So challenges that are presenting us at this point, obviously we have technical constraints working with any space. We're used to working with a flat 2D screen. So using this curved screen is something new to us, kind of learning that technology, what kind of shots work best, where can we implement things. Traditionally, we've done an environment where we've had a show with people walking bisected by a film. And this year we're looking at more creating an environment with our projections and then having performers interact with that environment. So with that then obviously comes choreographing the model movements. If we're going to have models interact with each other, also interact with what they're seeing on screen and with the audio, the timing has to be almost perfect. Our organization has close to 100 members. So getting all of our models doing the right things at the right time is not an insubstantial task. And then lastly, one of the things that we're trying to focus on is balancing distortion and confusion. We're trying to create an art piece that is approachable to the average, say, student. We don't want to cross that line and become something that is too disorienting and is not something that will be able to be enjoyed by an attendee. That's
Great.
all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have our VT short film channel. Joey.
Hi, I hope everyone's doing well. Thanks for this opportunity. And yes, this is the VT short channel where if you want to go to the next slide, I can explain some more. So our project is to pretty much bring exposure to a lot of the film students and visual creative arts people at Tech. There isn't really a place where students like me, a cinema student, and animators can put their artwork and be displayed online at Tech. So for this project is to kind of put a place where all the students and all faculty members and anyone can go and view these artworks. We also are thinking about doing premiere of some of the films and animations that are selected later in the spring. And you can go to the next slide. Currently, I met with some of the cinema department people and some of the student of performing arts business manager to kind of get everything together. I've met with the software design person to pretty much figure out how we want our website to be oriented. We looked at other universities and how they've outlined their pretty much cinema department and their kind of short film area. And so we're just kind of using the best things from theirs and bringing our own version. I've scheduled meetings with these people to kind of pretty much solidify and create the design, and those are, I think, happening next week. And we're thinking about reaching out to Virginia Tech news department to pretty much get our project out there so people can learn, and anyone at Virginia Tech can submit their work because it's not only for cinema students, it's for anyone. Can you do the next one? The challenges that we faced are kind of, in my mind, are getting enough people to submit their work. This is also for all of Virginia Tech, and it's going to be kind of hard to get that out there to all of the students. And because I'm sure there are a lot of students that have made short films that are passionate about animating, but don't really have a place to put it out there. So this is a good free way to have it out there and then maybe potentially put it on your resume. So the challenge is for us is to kind of reach those people, and that's kind of the challenge I'm thinking. The other thing is also creating a effective survey that people can go and put the correct details that they have. This will just be with different requirements, and I guess the person that has to digest the data and put it out there and actually enter it into the website, that'll be the challenge in making the data work for them. And also finding a professor that's willing to judge the artworks that's submitted, because they're going to have to be the ones that say this works and this is not so good. We have someone that I'm in mind, and they've agreed to it, but I don't know if they're still definitely agreed to it for the long run. But for now we do, but we'll see. And that's it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Joey. So that's everyone. And again, we want to thank you guys all for being here. Thank you, Roger and his wife, Debbie, for making this opportunity available. And thank you, Ben, for making the opportunity available through ICAT so the students know where to get this. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I will kind of start off. I wanted to remind everybody, several of the teams have events coming up in the next week or two or a couple of weeks. And I just want to remind you guys to provide some really great documentation, especially if you're hosting an event or a performance or however. And you don't have to wait for your final report. Please don't wait for your final report. As you have some of those great images that shows your work, go ahead and send those to me and we'll get those up on the website. Dylan's on this Zoom with us and he can easily get those up on your page. We want to see all the work, but we also want to be able to point people to your work on our website and be like, look what these amazing students are doing. So anytime you have things that you want us to put up there or add to, feel free to go ahead and send those to me. With that, I will start with the first question. The VDR group, you were talking about when you're going to do this. Do you have a date for that?
Yeah, we're still working on finalizing a very specific date. It's going to be the week of April 14th because we have, in the past, we've almost sold out Moss, which is like 1,000 people, and the sandbox can only seat like 20 or so. So we're trying to do multiple times. Still working with Gustavo and the ICAT team with specifically if we're going to do multiple days or multiple showings, but it's going to be in that week of April 14th.
And that is a public event?
Yes, it'll be public facing, but due to the limited amount of seating, it'll likely be we'll like manage all the tickets. We won't sell tickets, so it'll be pseudo public, pseudo invite only is kind of what we're thinking right now to be able to manage that.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have questions? Especially if you guys have questions for each other, because being in kind of the same spot, although in different disciplines very much, you may have a question that would help another team by just asking the question, but also, of course, any of our faculty and staff that are on the Zoom too.
Yeah, I have one. Mohammed, for your haptic feedback of like experiencing environments, what do you think is the use case for that? Is it so that people can understand like how something feels before they get there, or is it maybe to help disabled people feel things they wouldn't, or like where do you see that being like actually implemented?
So the reason for the project was like trying to transform that these complex data, because sometimes when we presented the project in several exhibitions, like any people out of engineering or designers or design majors, they don't understand these complex data.
Mm,
We try to have like a virtual application can use for like undergrad studies or for non-expert to understand like the quality of the building in terms of integrating with the environment or the climate conditions.
okay, thank you.
So,
Well, I have a gazillion questions, but I'll ask one and then I'll let other people jump in too. And I'll just go in order. First of all, you know, the model of the theater, I just really like that. And I was wondering, have you guys thought about, you know, one of the things that Brandon and Tanner have done at ICAD is simulate the sound of being in a theater. And I was wondering, in addition to your visual immersive environment, whether you thought of maybe creating an acoustic model of the environment and putting some sounds and music, making it very visceral to it, and possibly doing something like that in a cube-like space or the Perform Studio kind of space.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I haven't quite thought about that just yet, but I would definitely be interested in maybe continuing the project on and maybe going into that a little bit more. That is a good idea.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, I just think it would make it super visceral, super like you're really there kind of thing.
Yeah, I definitely agree. That'd be great.
So kind of following on to that, first off, thanks everybody. This has once again been fascinating. I don't know if you have the date for ICAT Day yet, Melissa, but I certainly plan to come back down if I can work at my schedule again.
We
Ben
do,
and
and I'll email you that.
Okay, thank you. Ben and I talked a little bit last year about sort of this idea of understanding some of these projects that I know that you got deadlines to meet for this project, but ones that have opportunities for additional, for additional work. Michael, it sounds like maybe that one for you. Mohammed, I had a chance to see, I guess, the basis for your project last year. So glad to see you continuing to work on that. That was pretty spectacular. Although I got a little vertigo stepping into the space, so I have to be honest. So I'm curious how it is in a VR environment. But yeah, always kind of interested in that. I know funding is an issue once you get past the first project, but and not that everyone has to answer this question, but something to think about as you put your projects together. And I think Ben probably has some good ideas about ways that you could continue to build on what you've worked on. But I'm always interested in other additional ways for us to support you as you go forward, kind of as you mature your idea.
Oh, thank you. That would be great. And in response to that, as Roger said, maybe if any of you have any immediate thoughts, that would be terrific. But also maybe send something to Melissa and myself, just some ideas that you might have, especially those of you that are not graduating seniors that might have some next steps. That would be terrific, and we can forward those on to Roger and just look at them and see what we could do next. I think that sounds really, really super nice.
And then Joey on the short film channel, is that something you think is going to be self-sustaining? That once like you kind of get it started, are there going to be opportunities maybe for others to take that over? It seems like the kind of thing that you'd only want to build bigger and bigger once you kind of build it, once you put the channel out there.
That's actually kind of one of the ideas we had. Me and my group and the mentor we had was talking about at some point, because I'm a junior, so I can still apply for the ICAT grant next year. But we were discussing about once I graduate and the people that are involved with it, the professor that I'm working with can reach out to many of the cinema students and any other people that are willing to take on the idea. But I agree, I do think it can keep growing and growing and have more of a students film and animation be shown and bigger premieres, I guess. But yeah, we do right now. We're considering reapplying and keep building off of this.
Yeah, and Andrew, I'm not sure I'm gonna be able to see your final product. It sounds like it's a week I won't be down there, but that looks really interesting. So I'm looking forward to hearing about that as well.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say, Joey, to his point, like our organization was actually started because of a very similar thing of like there's not a ton of great creative outlets for people, especially if they're not in something like cinema or in the arts. Like I'm personally mechanical engineering. Other people that
Yeah,
found the org are industrial systems. It's like we do a short form film every year, and like you're saying, there's no real way to highlight those people that work with us. We get end up having like a whole media team ourselves. And it is a struggle. So like that type of thing
yeah,
sounds super exciting. But also to your
yeah.
point, Roger, we'll be doing kind of our own like mini video synopsis, kind of talking about what we did in the space, like mini doc to kind of explain it a little bit better with some visuals. So super excited for that.
Okay, great. Look forward to it.
I have a question for Joey. So are
Yes.
you, thank you. Are you already accepting submissions of short films or animations, or is that something that will only start later when you implement the website? Thank you.
We haven't started accepting submissions yet. I'm thinking within probably the next 2 or 3 weeks. Um, I just have to meet with the person. The survey is complete, but once we implement it to the website and we have the website up, and then we send it out and people can submit it, then obviously, yeah, people can start using the survey link. But the survey is completed, just not the website.
Thank you.
I apologize because I couldn't type fast enough to get the name of the person that was doing the architecture and climate and stuff that I'm not even describing. It's a VR project. Who was that? Was it?
I think.
Oh, was it you? Okay. Sorry, I'm looking down and typing and stuff. So you're using, you said you're using simulated 3D audio in the headphones? Is that,
We
yes?
we use the Quest 3. It has like
Yeah.
360 speakers inside. So using this like tool, we can just like simulate the wind in two sides. Like one, it will be the velocity, and the other one, it will be the direction. When the wind coming from east, I can hear it from that side. North, it will come from the other side. So we can simulate like a realistic wind.
Okay, well, because I'm a broken record, sorry for the audio pun there, but I was thinking of, we just did a workshop up at Amazon, one of the faculty did, and was really showing the people at the workshop the difference between stereophonic audio, ambisonic audio, and then full immersive multi-speaker audio. And I was thinking that it would be, again, fun with your project to explore fully immersive multi-speaker audio in one of our studios as well, because I think you'll find that, again, to be, well, again, it's something that's a really beautiful progression. And you'll get the subtleties of the sound of the wind, et cetera, that I thought would be kind of neat. And also just, it's funny because there's this is only tangentially related, but there was a beautiful piece done several years ago. The whole piece was only 3 minutes long, where the temperatures of the world were sonified. And it started way back, like, whenever temperatures were originally first recorded. I don't even want to make up a number, but, it's a long, hundreds of years ago, they started recording temperatures. And the piece was basically showing pitch and audio as a function of time. And it was wonderful because you could hear that the pitch was not changing at all as temperature was pretty much average temperature on the earth was constant. And then all of a sudden at the end, it just, the piece was kind of like a drone sound. And then all of a sudden, because that was what was happening below. But anyway, I thought there was some interesting ways, like, as sort of a non sequitur suggestion to kind of look at sonifying some of the data that you have and stuff. So anyway, it was sort of an expansion of the immersive audio between the literal sounds of the wind to more taking some of the data that you have and thinking of sonifying, just as, you know, when you visualize something, you can visualize an actual image, but you can also just take data and, you know, give it color and lines and stuff like that. So you could do the same thing in the audio. So anyway, just some random thoughts for your project, but again, very, very cool.
Thanks so much for your advice. Thank you.
Other questions?
Well, Lisa, I was thinking on the studio playdate, Braden's project, that it'd be nice to him to talk with you a little bit about ID Pro and maybe some of the possible connections between the work that he's doing in creating up that lab environment and stuff with ID Pro, whether it's a class or whether it's a series of classes or something, or just a way to work with the groups in some way or another. Again, just sort of reaching out for possible connections. I don't know, Braden, are you familiar with Lisa's class, ID Pro?
No, I'm not.
Would you describe it?
Sure. Yeah, ID Pro is a project-based class where teams come together from across disciplines across the university on projects that last a semester or semesters or years. And they're largely kind of autonomous and independent, they're advised by a faculty mentor, but really led by the students. And there are different ways that they get that word out to other people, and they also recruit new team members, especially if it's a going across semesters kind of project. And yeah, and it would be great to talk with you more about what you're doing. It's based in, it comes out of an engineering education course right now, but we have students from so many majors across the university. And so we're always looking for ways to spread out to more people too.
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to make that connection. I mean, I think in my mind, the more interdisciplinary education becomes, the better. So yeah, I'd love to collaborate on something.
Absolutely, great. I'll send you an email.
All right, I'll only ask one more question, but on the Stories of Migration project, I was just curious. It's just a curiosity question. Will pieces of the actual interview be part of the piece? Because you did this, you know, beautiful idea of creating the score around it with Brandon, and I was just wondering, will you pull in some of the actual interviews that you're doing as part of the piece?
Yes, the parts of the interviews will be part of the music composition with the experimental blending thing that Brandon and I are going to work on, but namely Brandon with his expertise in music composition and sound spatialization. So yes, we're thinking about the narrations as sound as well. So they will be part of the sound arts.
So the literal voices and words, and, yeah, okay, gotcha. Okay, that'll be really cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, hold
Go
on.
ahead.
Sorry, Melissa, go ahead.
I was going to say, go ahead. Don't be shy to ask your questions.
Okay, I have a question for everyone that's here. And I know this is an egregious ask, but on the at the conclusion of the workshop that we're hosting, which will be like Sunday, February 2nd in the evening, we're hoping to recruit some volunteer judges to come judge the creations that the students make. Again, I know like Sunday evenings at 8 p.m., no one wants to be anywhere near campus, but if anyone is interested in dropping by, and it's really lighthearted, but just kind of like interacting with some students who have just made a bunch of art. just shoot me an email. So I'm looking. I've asked a lot of people, but no takers so far for some reason.
You can count me in, Braden, and you can also put a +1. I'll bring one of my other admin.
All right. Thanks, Andrew.
Definitely.
I will also try. I'm not sure how it's gonna be with all the things I need to do for the performance and my dissertation, but I wrote it down. I might be able to go.
I'll see what I can do as well.
Awesome. Thanks, y'all. I'll reach
Yeah,
out via
thanks for
email.
thanks for putting that opportunity out, Braden. If any of you don't know Braden and need to know how to get a hold of him, feel free to just shoot me an email and I'll connect the two of you. Okay, if that's all that you guys have, want to thank you guys again. You guys put some great work into presenting for us and getting that ready. I do this for a lot of different groups, some faculty groups, some other groups, and you guys are the first group I've not had to like beat you over the head to send me your info. So kudos to all of you for that. I really appreciate that. So thanks again for taking your time. Faculty and staff who are on, thank you for your time. And let me know if there's anything I can do or ICAT can do to help you further your project through the rest of the semester. All right.
Wonderful.
Thank you, guys.
Melissa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck with everyone's project.
Good luck.
You too.
Thank you.